Ramblings of a Music Teacher, Episode 22, The Perfect Practice Session. Today's podcast is in response to a question I received after last week's, which I thought would make another interesting topic to ramble about today. Nighthawks asked, could you please make a video about what the perfect everyday practice should include, and how long to spend on each section roughly, scales, pieces, sight reading, etc. First of all, thank you for the question, Nighthawks, and by the way, if anyone listening to this has a question they would like me to consider covering in a future episode, please leave a comment below. So, to the topic in hand, what makes the perfect practice session? Of course, there is not one simple answer, but I think some basic principles should cover what would constitute a perfect practice session. Firstly, I would include all of the above areas every day, that is, pieces, sight reading and scales. And at this point, I'd be interested to know, honestly, do you incorporate all three of these aspects every day? You can let me know via the online poll in our community section. There should be a card appearing on your screen now. Scales are probably a good idea to warm up with, and once they are known, they don't take that long. To go through every scale for your grade every day should take from 5 minutes for grade 1 to half an hour for grade 8. So, many people, and I'm being blunt here, suck at sight reading. And if I'm honest, when I was going through the grade system, it wasn't my strongest point either. However, this is because it is simply the most neglected part of daily practice. If you're learning a new piece, then by definition there will be some sight reading involved. But very often, this kind of sight reading is very tentative and with a poor sense of pulse. Even with a new piece, try to keep the flow going, playing slowly with a metronome to force yourself to keep in time. I've also developed a sight reading trainer which will do just that, force you to keep going as you play along with the videos. Why not give it a try and do at least one example every day? Finally, and everyone's favourite, the pieces. Last week I talked about some bad practice habits that don't make effective use of time. For me to prescribe a set time for a particular grade misses the point. Rather, for a perfect practice session, you should prescribe for yourself a goal for that session. By all means, play through once some of the old stuff that you have already learnt just to keep it ticking over, but spend 90% of your time achieving a specific goal for that day. For example, you might want to increase the speed of a particularly tricky 4-bar section using a metronome. Your practice session can be described as perfect, not dependent on how many minutes you spent, but on whether you achieved your goal for that day. A couple of final points. Firstly, it might be a good idea to split your day's practice into a couple of sessions. Sometimes after a period of time, our muscles and also our concentration need a break to work at optimum level. If you're getting to a point of frustration where you can't achieve what you want, stop and come back later refreshed and calm. Secondly, you've probably seen some of my video performances of the grade pieces. I find the quickest way to learn, for example, a grade 8 piece in just a few days is with a metronome. I probably use the metronome in my practice about 75% of the time. Obviously, there comes a point you need to wean yourself off of this tool so as to play musically and not mechanically. But for learning technically difficult passages, especially fast ones, it is the most effective method I can recommend. I said at the outset that I would be interested if anyone has any other questions I could consider for a future video. So, if you haven't done so already, please do leave a comment below. As always, thanks for listening, and tune in next week for more ramblings of a music teacher.